All right, we are almost done. We have our variables. We have our normalization columns calculated, which is our kind of our scores. We have combined two different normalization columns together so that we have three parameters overall going in. And the last thing we need to do is a final weighted score. It's a pretty easy calculation, but we do need a new tab. So I'm going to add that at the bottom, new sheet, and I'm going to call it constants. All right, and I'm going to reference another sheet and paste it in here. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so I've pasted some things in here. Now, this I'm not using, but if you have a reference for like a temperature that's ideal, I showed you in that one example in the slide deck. You could put in here. You probably wouldn't want it to be 10 degrees for the average temperature, but you can put your constant in there, and then your sheet can reference that. Also, if you have constant weights for like if I didn't split my two health indicators 50-50, you could put those constants in here too. So I'm not using this, so I'm just going to kind of gray it out, but I wanted to show you you could put any constants that you're going to use in your model, you can add to this tab. So in my particular model, I have health, economy, and crime. I've weighed my health options at 25% each. The economy is 50% of my model's worth, and the crime is 25%. This is just like for a class where your final exam is 10% and the class is 90%, that kind of thing. So we're just weighing the different categories here. So the very first thing, I don't know if this is super necessary, but we need to make sure we're obviously adding up to 100%, and we are. We also need to change these to decimals for our final score. So what we're going to do here is hit equals, and we're going to grab this and divide it by 100 to get all of our decimal equivalents. Again, not super hard, but if your weights are different values, you might want to do that. All right, now that we have our constant set, we'll do our final weighted ranking. And the calculation is pretty easy. We just have to make sure that we refer to the constants correctly. So in my weighted ranking, if I go to my constants tab, my health is 25% of my weight. So I am going to hit equals, and then I'm going to go to the constant, which is 0.25. The only thing I have to do is all these constants, I have to put the dollar signs in so that because what's going to happen is when I start to drag, it'll move these down. So we got to make sure we do that. We're going to multiply that constant times the health column. So remember, the health one, I had to combine the two together. So it's going to be this value right here. And then we're going to add it to our next weighted constant, which was 50% for the economy. So we're going to select that. But again, don't forget to use the dollar signs. And that is going to be multiplied by the economy normalization one. So that would be this. Plus one more constant, that is our crime constant. So select that. Again, make sure you fix this one with the dollar signs, and you're going to multiply that by the crime column, which is right here. So it's this one. One thing to check, they all should be row 2. Different columns is fine. They all should be row 2, and we hit enter. And there is our weighted ranking for that one. We're just going to have to manually drag this down all the way to the bottom. Almost there. And now we have our weighted rankings for all the different cities. So we can then sort them using A to Z or Z to A. And our top city in my model would be San Ramon, California, followed by Newton, Massachusetts, and Pleasanton, California. However, these ones have missing data. So then I have to decide what I want to do. And this is now when I would decide I probably would get rid of these from my model, and I could look at my next ones, which I have, which would be Sunnyvale, Fremont, and Mountain View, all in California. So that's essentially what you need to do. But the final step is you're going to get a chance to kind of play around with the constants to see if that's really what you want. Maybe we want crime to be a bigger indicator. So we're going to change that to 40. And we're going to change this to 35. And we can see what happens to our models. We can go back to that. And the nice thing is when we do it this way, we don't have to recalculate anything. So we can see, do we still have the same cities at the top? We'll have to resort them. All right, and we can see we have some changes. Ooh, Naperville's even moving closer to the top. So anyway, you can make decisions with your team what you want to do with these different constants. And it is iterative. I don't want you to feel like that's anything bad. Like you can think about, is it really weighing things the way you want to? And that's essentially it for your spreadsheet. We're going to do some other things with it, but that's really where you need to be in terms of getting your weighted ranking model.